Hey everyone, this is John Peterson. Thanks for joining us on the Mindset Podcast. Today I want to introduce you to our sponsor, Tom Sherman with Benchmark Mortgage. This guy's amazing. He's opened up his office here for us to use as a studio. So Tom, tell us about yourself.
Hey, thanks so much, John. Tom Sherman with Benchmark Mortgage. I've been in the mortgage business for 25 years, and I like to refer to myself as a financial partner. So often when you introduce someone as a mortgage lender, it has all kinds of negative connotation, right? So I like to say, introduce us as your financial partner. And our goal is to help your clients be better stewards of their resources. My ultimate goal is to help people reach financial freedom. And we do that through the process of borrowing money and ultimately paying that debt off.
I love it.
So
how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, best way to reach me is my email, tom.sherman@benchmark.us. tom.sherman@benchmark.us.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you again opening up your office to us, and enjoy the show.
Thank you.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for checking us out again. Welcome to the Mindset Podcast. I'm John Peterson. Today, my guest is Mr. Cody Cobb. We're both members, or I shouldn't say members, agents at Monument. The first day I saw him, I just felt the Lord say to connect with him, and it's been awesome ever since. So thank you, brother. Appreciate you coming out.
Can't get rid of me, so.
No, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Here's a funny story before we even start. So Cody's huge on lunches, right? Yeah. That's how you really connected last year. Yeah. We'll talk about that. But our first lunch, I think we did at 12 o'clock up in Legacy West, right? I just felt the Lord say, leave the rest of your afternoon open.
I didn't. You did.
Right.
It just kept going.
Yeah. So we sit down for lunch at 12, and I think 3.5 or 4 hours later.
4 hours later.
I'm like, bro, we need to turn over this table for our waitress, right?
Yeah.
So she can make. And so we're like, hey, let's go to the bar right here. And he's like, well, let's go to Haywire.
Yep.
We head over to Haywire, and then on the way, you reached out to Ken Callahan.
Yep.
With title companies in Republic Title. Yeah. So shout out to Ken. Yeah. And it was awesome because he met us over there about 5 p.m. and then we ended up shutting down at 10 p.m. Mm-hmm. So yeah, from noon until 10 p.m. and honestly, we could have gone longer. It was crazy. So thanks, awesome, brother. Appreciate you being on the show. Yeah, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so Cody Cobb, born and raised here in Dallas, Texas. Grew up in the Plano, Louisville, Carrollton type area, all over. And went to school at North Texas, got a marketing degree, did the typical college route, got married when I was in college actually as well, and then worked for the same company for 7 years out of East Texas in Tyler, and it was great. It was a work from home gig, so that was a little hard, and it was phone sales. That was definitely hard because, as you know now, I'm
getting you ready for real estate. Yeah, getting you ready for real estate.
Getting good at phone sales is tough at the beginning, but man, what a valuable skill set, truthfully, to have.
Huge,
you got to learn to connect with people without looking at people. That's very hard, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, I did that. Got to wear multiple hats while I was there, which was probably the best experience it could have given me in order to do real estate really well and look at real estate as a business, not just like a fad or a career or something less, if that makes sense. So anyway, I was there for 7 years. Ended up getting divorced a couple years ago in the interim there, and as you know that story, and I'm happy to talk about it as much or as little as you want.
We can talk about anything, but nothing is off limits. Where we could talk about other brokerages, Jesus, Holy Spirit, coffee, guns.
I'll let you direct it, but as you know, I'm happy. I'm an open book to talk about whatever. So I ended up doing that. That career for 7 years. Did lose my marriage, back in 2019. God did some incredible things as we've discussed in 2020, which was an ironic year for him to work in a very miraculous way because of what was going on.
COVID and everything,
so that happened. And then in, what was it? November of 2020, that's when Ian Sweeter was like, you need to quit your job and do real estate finally full time. And I was like, there's no better time than the present. And I had nothing to lose. I was broke. I had nothing to lose, man. I could care less, And got licensed and started with Monument. And now we're at 15 months and 9 days or whatever today is. So, yeah. I love it. And we met. There's been so much good that's come out of it.
Absolutely, bro. And so let's talk a little bit about your success. That's one of the reasons why I wanted you on this show. Sure. Most of my agents are going to be brand new that I'm coaching and training.
Okay. Which I still consider myself pretty brand new.
Yeah, but you're kicking butt and taking names, brother. You're kicking butt and taking names. Man. So absolutely, right? Because we know where it comes from, right? Giving him gratitude and acknowledging him. So talk about last year, if you don't mind. What were your numbers, either units or GCI, whatever you want to talk about?
Well, so the funny thing is we're sitting in Benchmark Mortgage, for those people that don't know where we are right now.
Yep.
Tom Sherman is the lead here, if you will, the boss. I've known Tom for almost a decade now.
Have you? Yeah, I didn't know
crazy.
That.
Probably close to 8 years. Yeah.
Wow, bro, I didn't know that.
Well, so here's how this is how just God builds on itself, right? Or on himself, right? So Tom and I met. The only reason we met was because my ex-wife's uncle is a top producer in Remax right down the road, ironically, here in McKinney. And so he and I were like brothers. And back in 2016, he had approached me. This is back when I was still married, too. We're going to go all over, but this is going to
that's exactly.
So I'm ADD, OCD, and dyslexic, so this is going to be wild, you know? Anyway.
Exactly. They can fast forward if they don't like the story.
That's right. Ex-wife's uncle in real estate, he and I were very close. He put me in touch with Tom because he's worked with Tom for years. And this is years ago now, right?
Wow, okay.
And so I met Tom, and Tom was just kind of a spiritual and personal mentor for me for years. And you know him now well enough to see why. And so I kind of had Tom in my life in that regard for years. And then here I am getting into real estate all of a sudden. So it was kind of a perfect marriage. So going back to your question of, how was the first year? The reason I mentioned Tom is twofold. Not only has he continued to be a rock and source of wisdom for me in this career, but also at the beginning, when it was November, I started December at Monument in 2020. In November, he and I get together, and he's like, "Hey, so let's talk goals, for first year for real estate."
This is Tom. This is
Tom. Okay, yeah. And I'll never forget it because of where this is going. So I didn't at the time understand volume, transactions. Sure, I understand if somebody does $4 million, that means they sold X amount of homes, most likely to get to $4 million. I'm not retarded, but I didn't know at the same time what to expect of myself. Right, just maybe the best way to say it. I did know what rough averages looked like.
Because you had no real estate experience before, so you're brand spanking new to the party.
And if you look up, this was then, so if you looked up stats then of 1 year agents in the beginning, bro, it's like peanuts. Yeah. I mean, I hate saying that, but it's the truth. Based off fact.
We're talking
per
year.
5 to 8 transactions expected in year one. And we're talking 2 to 3 million volume. So when he asked me, and we were sitting down, he goes, "So what's your goal?" I was thinking, and I know Tom well, and he knows me well, and we're both very direct with one another, and he pushes me, and that's why I love him. And I was like, 4 million? Or no, excuse me. At the beginning, it was transactions. He's like, "How many transactions you want to do?" And I was like, 16. He goes, "Where'd you get that from?" I was like, "Oh, I pulled that." I don't know, man.
Exactly.
And he goes, "Okay, so let's think volume." So sorry, I told that backwards, but he and then I was like, 4 million. Because I knew what that meant. I didn't know necessarily.
You knew that was kind of the average, right?
Yeah. Or leases or sales. I didn't know anything, bro.
Of course.
So,
and this guy's asking you a number, so you want to sound
like
you
kind of know what you... And it's Tom, right? So
which
I'm
is the numbers man, which is the numbers guy.
So I'm like, 4 million. And he goes, "How about 10 million?" And and in my head, I remember thinking okay, I know what that means. And I don't think that's even remotely possible, right? The point is, though, okay, when you got people like that in your corner, you're one of those people for me, it's people that push you past your comfort zone and get you to think bigger than who you think you actually are. Right? That's exactly what was transpiring in that moment. That was the most valuable thing that came out of that moment. Huge. It wasn't the number. The number didn't mean anything. It wasn't the number. No. It was the lesson, right? So, coming back to your question with what I ended up with. 28 transactions total in year one in a 12-month period. And I think Ken pulled my number at 7.1 for year one.
Awesome, brother.
So I exceeded what I thought was possible, right? Still fell short, if you will, on Tom's idea for me. But that's not what matters, right?
No.
The fact is, he pushed me to do something more than what I thought I was capable of doing, and I did that.
Yeah.
And the only reason I did that is because of just relentless hard work and God's blessing.
Well, and let's go back to that conversation, bro, because you said something important that I want to share on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because again, right, I've interviewed some agents already, and they're like, "Yeah, I was just, I made a decision. I'm gonna talking about all the positive stuff."
Yeah.
So what I want to do in this podcast is the negative.
Yeah,
the real stuff, bro. Let's talk about the real, thinking thoughts about suicide.
That's not reality.
Or you can't exactly
that's
right because
everyone. What do you want to talk about?
That's it. Yeah. So take me back to that point when he told you 10 million. What was that thought that you had that was against?
I thought he was crazy.
Okay. What other thoughts did you have?
100% disbelief.
What other thoughts? Did you have anything else?
Because I knew how much. Here's the thing, right? And this is what he and I talked about 2 months ago.
Okay.
Is where I wanted to go this year. And I was thinking I was kind of wild with my idea.
You're already smiling.
He topped it again, okay? Him and Wayne Bartley, both. Wayne's another agent at Monument that's a big mentor of mine and very successful in real estate. So what I was feeling, right, was doubtful, fearful. Because that's the thing, right? If you want to have a certain level of success, it's going to take a lot of sacrifice to get there. That's what people don't want to talk about.
Right.
That's what I'm here to talk about. That's what you want to talk about.
Yeah, that's it, brother.
Okay, hey, listen, you want to be a $50 million producer? you could probably do it. Have you thought about what it's going to take to be that and to do that? Because you may not like that. And that may force you to be comfortable with just being a 15 million.
Yeah.
Right? Which again, and that's where, and you and I talked about this plenty, we'll probably talk about today, is everybody measures success differently.
Correct.
And success is not always about money.
No.
Most people with what society pushes, especially in Western worlds like ours and where we're blessed to have freedoms and luxuries and conveniences, like people get so caught up on the money that they lose sight of what's important, or they don't make other things just as equally as important as money.
And that's it, bro. And that is one thing I did learn from Keller Williams, right? By helping them run a team over there and all that, is when we had a new agent. And I don't know what it is about $100,000. Any agent, you ask them what they want to make a year, $100,000. Like that's the whatever, right? So we would set their goals. Let's just say it was something audacious, like 50 units. Yeah. Right? So then
in year one?
In year one, right? It's like, all right, let's go for it. Like, that's what you want. So we had a whiteboard. We'd write down 50 units, right? Well, we had the numbers saying, okay, you have to speak to
X
100 people, right? So you do exactly. So we have all the numbers. So we just broke it down and said, okay, you need to speak to 300 people a day. Mm-hmm. Well, I can't speak to 300 people a day. Exactly. Well, hold on. Let's just think about this. I go, we can leverage it out. You can hire people, right, to, well, I don't have the money. I don't have the time. Okay, then we need to change a goal. Yeah, see? Right? But you're right, bro. Most people are just like, they pull a goal out of you-know-where. Yeah. And they're just like, yeah, let's go with that. And I'm like, first of all, that's BS, your goal. Yeah. So then you're not going to really implement and give 110%. But yeah, bro, that's what I want to do on this podcast is just talk about the stuff that nobody wants to talk about, the thoughts that people have. Because here's what I've realized, brother. Almost all of us have those same thoughts. Yeah. And the enemy always tries to isolate us and make you, Cody, that you're just thinking that, and you're this, and you're that, and John Peterson, you're thinking this. And man, when you start talking to people and they really get real and open up, bro, it's honestly like the same 5 or 6 thoughts, negative.
Yeah, and so it's just one thing I want to mention too on that note with money and like connections, right, and people. Mm-hmm. So one of my attitudes and mentalities at the beginning that made me different, and I think helped get me to the point of what I achieved in the first year, right? Because it's not, I mean, listen, there's people that have surpassed what I did. I'm not special in that way, to me. But is at the beginning, I started taking people to lunch. Mm-hmm. So now, it's funny because now at the office, I'm like the lunch guy.
You're the lunch guy. You're known, bro.
And you know what? I'm damn proud of that because the reason that became that, right? After only 15 months of doing this, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not known in the industry. Right. Nobody knew me. Nobody cared who I was.
You're the new kid. You have no real estate experience.
I'm this, dude coming in being loud as hell and, putting vegetables on people's heads and stuff at closings. We can talk about that later too. But, so my point is, at the beginning, I was like, okay, here's my goal. I remember thinking in December when I was going through SEALs training at Monument, which is, that's our training. That's what it's called there, right. As a new agent. I was like, okay, I got to be known, and I need to know others. Like that, if I can do that well, then I feel like in doing that, it will create business, it will create growth.
And where did that thought come from?
I was just
did you read a book?
I'm going to say it's 100% me, but I mean anything that is me is from the Holy Spirit.
That's cool.
I'm going to give it to that. Yep, right? It wasn't a book, it wasn't anything like that. And naturally, that's kind of my personality anyway, as you now know. Yeah. I'm like a golden retriever. Like I just love meeting new people for no reason. Like that's just how God made me. So being known and knowing others. I was like, that's the thing. Somehow I got to get really good at that and just do that and focus on that and work my butt off, right? So at the beginning, I was like, the next year, I'm going to meet 3 to 5 people a week. That's my goal, is minimum. 3 to 5 people minimum per week for a full 12 months. I'm going to commit to doing that in my first year.
And so this is the end of 2020 you're talking about.
This is December 2020, like starting in January, so this is one way I'm going to do
2021, okay.
Because it's like what you just said. Okay, you want to hit 50 million? How? Right? Okay, you want to be known and know others? How are you going to do that?
You reverse engineer it, exactly.
I'm going to take 3 to 5 people to lunch a week. So at the beginning, especially as I was going through SEALs, it was very intentional on focusing on who was teaching me.
Okay.
Because in SEALs, we have different people that come in and teach, right? So you got the Stacey Reynolds, you got the Rebecca Lees, you got the Wayne Bartleys, you got the Jason Kaufmans, you got all these big names that I'm throwing out are people that are top producers at our brokerage, right? Being very sacrificial, coming in and teaching us.
Yeah, because we don't get paid for it. Exactly, we don't get paid for that.
No, bro, and that's huge. But I would pay attention to the strengths and weaknesses of each of them, right? Okay. Jason Kaufman, fantastic on the phone, amazing communicator, great probably negotiator too. I haven't said on too many of those, but that's his lane, right? Okay. Wayne Bartley became an expert in his field in Prosper way before Prosper had fully become what it is now.
Nice.
Good with new builds, like Stacey. Like I could mention.
They all have their niche, their lane.
Yeah.
Okay,
same
that's
thing.
Cool.
And then leadership: Trisha Andrews, Angela Cunningham, Kevin Andrews, Eddie. I mean, you start throwing out these people that are like at the top, that make the decisions. People like Jordan Pogue, who works in the office, that has been working there since day one. That is somebody that is extremely helpful and important from an administrative, And
so you asked all these people to lunch?
Most of the people I just mentioned.
Okay,
yeah,
that's
about
cool.
80 to 90% of who I just mentioned.
Well, and I say that's important because you mentioned, right, they're the upper brass, they're the owners, they're this. Most people are so afraid.
No, man, what do you need to be afraid of?
Well, you and I have that personality.
That, I don't know how much I can curse on this, but...
Bro, it's whatever you want.
Yeah.
But as an introvert, so what would you say to an introvert? Because you and I are obviously...
And as an introvert, you have to choose at some point, when are you going to let the fear control your life, or when are you going to
make a decision?
You got to do something about it.
Make a decision.
That aspect of people's personalities, right? It's very important to understand yourself. Mm-hmm. It's very important to take the time to understand other people.
Right.
So that way you can connect. That's the whole thing, right?
Absolutely.
So for me, I'm a freak. On the scale of you never want to talk to a human to you want to talk to too many humans. I'm past that. Right. I broke the needle off. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so for me, this is
organic.
And it gives me energy. It doesn't take energy. So that's the thing that's hard for introverts too, is it takes a lot of energy. Mm-hmm. And I get that. So I'm definitely not judging, casting stones, definitely not saying they're anything less of a person.
But you know what, bro? I still think they can learn from what you did and take the principle, and maybe they only take one person a week to lunch. Or one every other week, right? But start somewhere.
Or do it together. Listen, I'm not
that's
kidding.
That's a good idea.
If that's a thing that helps keep your nerves down. When Abby Best is another agent, right? At the brokerage. And when she and I stop that. You stop. When she and I went to, where the hell is my thought going?
I know where your thought went. Yeah. We're on a podcast right now.
So when she and I went to lunch with the One Legacy Group girls, right? She didn't know them. I knew Lydia and Leah, and I hadn't gotten to know Caitlin yet.
Okay.
Who was a part of that group. But she and I went together, right? And so doing something, it was fun, right?
Yeah.
It was doing something fun together, networking together,
group.
right? So that maybe that's something for a more introverted person, is do it with someone, maybe somebody that's more naturally gifted in it, right? And maybe that'll make that a little easier.
So how would it? This is going to be on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So if someone in our group at Monument was just like, hey, Cody, would you go to lunch with me with this, whoever they want to meet for the first
Absolutely.
one? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's what I love about the culture.
So here's been my problem now is, and I say this with complete humility, okay, is because I did that so much last year, right? And let me add this story in with this, right? Is I remember the first big event that we went to was, I think, the casino night that we did last year.
Okay.
Right? Bro, we're probably only 4 or 5 months in. I hadn't even graduated SEALs yet. And I knew my SEALs team, and I knew probably at the time maybe 20 to 30 other people by name, by face, right? And then typically, as you guys know, cowboy hat's kind of part of my brand. It's kind of part of who I am as a Texan and all that kind of stuff. And not a lot of people wear them at the office, right?
True.
And I remember going to the party, and bro, I saw not only all those people that I just mentioned, but I had at least 8 people minimum that came up. We're like, Cody Cobb, it is so good to finally meet you in person. And I have no idea who these people are.
That's cool.
But I'm like, oh yeah, for sure. And whatever, I walk off, I'm like, who the hell is that, right?
Right.
And I remember my SEALs team being like, how do you know all these people? And I literally tell them straight up, and it kind of blows my mind, right? As I'm like, I made time for them. There is no secret sauce. I literally pursued people, made time for them. Wayne Bartley, I'll never forget the first time he came and taught. He's like, does anybody know who David Dickerson is? Of course nobody does.
Yeah.
And he's, brilliant guy. Mm-hmm. He's probably only about 24 now, maybe. Anyway, nobody knew who he was.
Okay.
And Wayne was like, immediately, you guys need to get to know this kid because he's probably going to be a millionaire by 26. Kid's killing it. He's unique. He's different. What do? Immediately write down his name. Immediately write down his number. Send him a text within 30 seconds of finding this out.
Right.
Schedule a lunch for 2 days later. Go and meet the man. Get to know his model, his business, his strategy, how Wayne's influenced his life. And all of a sudden, I'm blown by this kid's creativity with life and how he's building a career and everything. But I did that. So if you're not even willing to do that, then frankly, I don't feel bad for you.
Yeah.
Because you're not putting yourself
taking
out
the
there.
action.
There's you can scale risk as big or as small as you want.
Right.
If you're introverted and that's harder for you, then make it more reasonable.
Right.
What I'm communicating right now is not reasonable to somebody like that.
True. You're
this
right.
This is dramatic.
And that's why I'm asking
make it
that.
you.
Because they may not be able to relate, go, well, yeah, they always say that's Cody. That's John. If I had that personality, if I was that outgoing. So that's why I said, especially the introverts.
But I make the time, bro.
Well, that's it.
Going into the office, meeting new people, right? Now when I go into the office, everybody knows who, not everybody, but you know what I mean.
No,
the majority of people, even people from the Fort Worth office, they know who I am. I don't understand how a lot of these people know who I am.
It's like that old show Cheers. Did you ever see that?
Yeah,
when you walk in?
When the bar,
it's like
it's
Cody.
The same thing, right?
Exactly.
And I mean, part of it's probably because I'm a really loud, you know what, but
but they remember you, bro.
There's things that are like that, right? But I think my hope, right, is that one of the reasons I'm memorable is because I made the effort for somebody else,
right?
Like to get to know them, right? Every day we wake up, there's so many people out there that aren't even being pursued or valued or validated, right, or affirmed,
right.
And when I make time to try and be intentional like that, to get to know people's story, and like, I don't want to talk about work, I want to know you, right? Some people, that might be the first time in their life somebody's ever tried to do that. You never know. You don't know who you're sitting across from, right?
It's very
You
true.
might be sitting across from somebody that needed that. You have no idea, but I hope that is what's part of making me known, because I'm just trying to get to know other people.
Well, and I think that's part of the monument culture, right? Having Dina on here earlier, we were talking about that. It's like that's one thing I think they've been really good at, is creating a culture and sticking to it.
Yeah.
The example I gave earlier was that before she recruited me, one of the things that really was like, okay, I need to take this opportunity serious, is there was some big person, right, producer that she was interviewing. No, they had already hired him. And the guy was just a jerk. Arrogant, you get to right, just wasn't part of the culture. They asked him to leave.
Yeah.
Bro, that was huge to me because I've done sales. I've been in real estate 30 years, done other sales stuff, right? Coaching, training for salespeople, mindset classes, all that kind of stuff. Most people, bro, if someone is the golden goose that's closing deals, bringing in money, yeah, there's the culture, but it doesn't apply to him or her.
Yeah, they're outside.
Because they're killing it. Yeah, because they're killing it.
Yeah.
So when Dina told me that, like, no, we had to ask him to leave. And so I brought up that story earlier with her.
Yeah.
And she said just the other day she was interviewing someone that was kind of a big deal. And she said, honestly, John, she goes, I got 10 minutes into the interview and I could just tell. And she goes, I just had to go, you know what?
And that woman has discernment.
Bro, exactly.
That's like my 10th mama in this world. That lady, if anybody ever messes with her, they can come mess with me. Like,
that's exactly right. She's amazing.
Amazing, caring. My interview with her, so I hadn't interviewed for a job in 7 years by the time I met Dina, right? Yeah. And I'll never forget my interview, and I'll never be more proud of an interview, probably, because we go into interviews and we have this idea of how we think it's going to go, or what to expect, or what to prep for, and here I am walking into a industry I have really no knowledge of, right?
Yeah.
And I remember sitting down and just thinking to myself, I was a little anxious, I think we all naturally are, no matter how much we are good at doing this, right? But about 5 minutes in, like right in at the beginning of it, I just looked at her. I was like, Dina, let me tell you something. I just kind of had an epiphany. Here's what I'm not going to do. Is I'm not going to sit here and sell myself.
Right.
Might be the most abnormal way to kick this off and prove this, but I'm not going to do that. I was like, I did sales for a long time. I know how to manipulate you if I want, or say the right thing, or whatever. I was like, but frankly, I don't really. Where's the value in that, right? I was like, here's what I can tell you. I'm here to work hard. I'm here to learn, and I'm here to outwork who you put around me, because that's important to me right now. With where I'm at in life, with what I'm wanting to do with this is like a 20-year plan for me. This isn't some fad. This isn't some part-time. Like I'm here to work and to learn and to give back and be a part of something that's bigger than myself.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Well, and I told her, because I was like, listen, in 2 weeks, if I ain't worth being here, then I ain't worth being here.
That's right.
Like, to me, it's that simple. And then all of a sudden, and I do this with my clients, in terms of the ability of, if I'm not producing for you, fire me.
Exactly.
I tell them at the beginning. I put the ball in their court, because what it does, it creates trust almost instantly.
Right.
Or at least it creates it a lot faster, right? Because all of a sudden, I'm giving you the keys to the jail.
Well, that's it. They're in control. Exactly.
Yeah. Give it to them.
They're empowered.
Instead of holding on to it, right? So I tried to do the same thing with that, and it went well. And then, I was very blessed and fortunate to graduate the training program a month early. It's a 6-month program. I graduated that early.
And you had to get, 8 deals?
Yeah.
Is what it was at that
when
time?
I did seals, it was 8 transactions in 6 months.
Okay,
so you could do buy, sell, lease, whatever. Right? Combination of all the above. Mine was a combination. I think I only had 2 deals in that time period that were sphere, so like people from my sphere of influence.
Okay.
Everything else was leads, and Monument's really good about leads. And then, bro, after August last year, it was all sphere. I didn't take a lead for 6 months.
That's kind of awesome, because
that's wild.
Well, it's in a better split for you too. That's
God, yeah. The money's way better.
Of course.
For sure. But so that was kind of how the first year went. And again, it was all just hard work and God opportunities from the Lord. That's it. It's not people look at success and they're like, man, there's got to be something special or something different. Well, I think God made me special. I'm confident in that.
Yeah, start with that.
Because if you're not, you already got a problem. You're out of the starting gate.
Well, that's where it goes back to the identity, bro. And the lies you're believing about yourself.
I don't know when or if you want to talk about that, but yeah.
Of course. No, and that's what I'm saying. Like, That's why I asked you when you mentioned when you met with Tom, right? The negative thought.
Yeah.
Because people have an option, they have a choice to believe that thought and go with it, right?
Yeah.
And so then you're going to, based on what you believe about that lie, if you believe it as truth, because this is what I realized, bro, is like there's truth and then there's what we believe.
Yes.
And we can believe some whacked out stuff.
Yeah.
Right? The idea is to get with truth and believe that. But dude, there's people, again, from helping them with emotional healing, mindset.
Well, a lot of times it starts small.
Oh, always.
That's how Satan works, right?
It's like that snowball.
It's like that little snowball. If it's doubt or it could be literally anything, right? Mm-hmm. Addiction, whatever. It starts itty bitty. Mm-hmm. It's like people that have affairs. Same thing. At some point, they started becoming more unhappy in the relationship, right? And I can't speak to this at all, can I?
No, not at all. Not at all.
But, yeah, so it starts small, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe it becomes like an emotional thing. Maybe it becomes some kind of like chemical addiction, like with social medias and stuff. I mean, it can literally manifest into anything.
Of course.
And in that example, right, at some point it becomes a full-blown affair.
Oh, without a doubt.
So it's like, well, you didn't start right there. You didn't just start going cheating outside your marriage or your relationship or whatever you're in, right? Like it started somewhere and then it got to that.
Right.
So it's the same thing going back to what we were saying about controlling your thoughts is
you
have to learn to nip that in the bud early.
Oh, without a doubt, bro.
And it saddens me the amount of people you and I talk to that don't understand how much control they actually have over that, right? And as believers,
very true.
Holy smokes, bro! When I was going through some of those horrific moments in my marriage with the separation and the homicidal thoughts and all, I mean, I was in
all the stuff,
like the darkest place, right? I'll never forget one of my dearest friends. He called me one day and we were chatting about all that. I was just honest with him. I mean, I remember telling him. And he probably won't remember this, but I remember telling him on the phone, like, I spent 8 hours yesterday but thinking through how to kill someone slowly and painfully over a week's worth of time.
Yep.
That's what I literally did for 8 hours yesterday because I lost track of time in these dark, demonic, horrific thoughts. Right?
Absolutely.
And he was like, bro, listen, one, appreciate your honesty and like, because I was scared out of my mind. I was embarrassed. I was
well, because
dude,
you've never had those thoughts before.
No,
because you've never been in a situation like that.
No, I'd
either.
never been pushed to that extreme emotionally, right? So the point of sharing that is just to go back to his point, which was you do realize, he's like, you don't, and I'm making you realize that you have power. You have supernatural powers. As a believer, the Holy Spirit is within you, and you have the ability to command and rebuke that evil in an instant. In the Bible, it talks about Satan cannot hang around along with his gang, right, of demons. If we even mention the name of Christ, boom.
He has to,
like,
bro.
Like the whole mic drop thing, you know, like
true.
he has to. It is not a choice. It doesn't say in the Bible, he might stick around and think about it.
You got a 50-50 chance.
It only works sometimes. You know, like, no, it's like, no, you have the power to command in the name of Jesus Christ, right? And so I started doing that. I told you about the demonic visitations I had, 3 when I was awake, 3 when I was asleep. When I would wake up from the ones at night and awake, right?
Yeah.
I remember just for minutes, I would just go on just saying, you know, again, like I rebuke you in the name of Jesus Christ and ask to be surrounded by your angels and you know, all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
That stuff worked. People might not believe it. Frankly, I really don't care, but it does. It worked and it always will work. But to know and be reminded of that strength and that power and that kind of tool, if you will, that's huge.
It is. And so let me ask you this, because, and I agree with you and I've experienced the same thing, but for people, like, again, right, just trying to educate them, because anytime we start something new, we feel stupid, we feel weird.
You don't do it right.
You don't do it right. You hear the other thoughts like, that was stupid, you know? Yeah. So when your buddy told you that, and you're like, okay, I have power, I'm going to try speaking to these things or whatever, what kind of thoughts were you having? Were you just 100% confident, like, nope, this is going to work?
No, and that's what's so sad, right?
Yeah.
That immediately proves our brokenness. Is here I am telling you, claiming that I am a believer of Jesus Christ and the God of the universe and how all that ties together in the gospel and the sacrifice, right? And then all of a sudden, in a moment, a brother to another brother tells me and reminds me of this, and I think in my head immediately, I'm already doubting it. Man, is that how it gets poet? Here, I'm a believer.
Exactly. No, bro, it's real.
How pathetic is that? I mean, seriously. And then it starts happening, right? And I remember he told me too. He's like, and if you have to say it over and over, he's like, you keep saying it until it stops. Don't say it once and then it's lingering a couple seconds later or still in the moment and then you're done. Like, you don't stop. Because that's the other thing, right? That's how Satan in those kind of instances is going to try and distract and make you be full of doubt is, well, you're still thinking about it.
Of course.
It's like a slow drip, right? In the back of your mind or whatever's going on, whatever you're dealing with. But
well, and that's why you got to just hit it
over
right?
and over.
You rebuke it over and over.
It stops.
And what does
at
the Bible
some
say? Faith comes by hearing and hearing and right?
Yeah.
So like you're actually pumping yourself up, going like, because in the beginning when we try it, it does feel weird. You do feel dumb. You have the thoughts.
Yeah.
Right. Even as you're quoting or speaking to that thought, you're like, is this even working?
Yeah.
Like it's just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I've had thoughts, bro, just throughout my life with certain situations where I'm like, is God even real?
Yeah.
The amazing stuff he's done, the supernatural stuff I've had experience with
in
broken, my personal life. Well, that's it, right? So that's
it's not an excuse, but that's reality.
Well, and that's it. To me, I just look at everything like a test, right? Because Jesus, we were talking about this earlier with Dina, like that's, I guess, my biggest problem with some of the churches and religion is they just teach that if you have Jesus, so that when the devil starts coming at you, the same people that are teaching this is like, oh, there's something wrong with you. You must be sinning.
Yeah.
Dude, if you read the Bible for yourself, like I did, you see that Jesus tells you, bro, straight up, you're going to have tests and trials. They're going to come after you. They hated me first. They're going to hate you as a believer.
Yeah.
That's a total different expectation than, because then what happens if you believe the other stuff, right? That it's just whipped cream and cherries. It's all great. You're in this protective bubble. Nothing affects you. It's just all positive
prosperity
life and prosperity, right?
That's the whole,
And don't get me wrong. I believe part of that because they do speak some spiritual principles, but they mix in a lot of the other stuff.
It's blended,
right? So like for me, when I started going through my stuff, that's what a lot of people, my friends, we've kind of raised up in that church, were just like, oh, well, they just must be doing, John must be doing something wrong. Right? He must be dealing with this or struggling with whatever. Like that's why this is happening to him. And if you're not careful, it starts jacking with your own brain.
Yeah.
They don't even have to tell you that, but you're already kind of thinking that because of the way you were taught.
Yeah.
Dude, I started reading the Bible for myself and I'm like, dude, he's saying expect bad stuff.
Yeah.
Expect, right? Like, and I remember one time with my ex, bro, because you know my story too. She cheated on me and all that, and even went to the level to tell other people that I cheated on her and I beat her and all, right, which is totally baloney. But I just remember thinking, like, Lord, how is she doing that? How, like, I don't understand, right? And the Lord was just like, love them where they're at. And dude, that was hard. Like, I have friends that are like, dude, you know, the Bible and stuff is for weak people that, you know, need that. I'm like, what do you mean need that? I'm like, bro, try walking in love. That's one of the hardest things I've ever done.
I think being a believer is one of the hardest things.
Oh, well,
to do it well.
Well, that's it. That's what I was telling Dina. I don't even use the word Christian anymore because
standard.
that's such a... Everyone just throws that word around, right? Oh, I'm a Christian, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, but a believer means you're believing it and you're taking action the best we can because we're not perfect.
Right.
But bro, I think that's important just to set that expectation. Like, it's not going to be peaches and cream. Yes, you'll have a peace that passes all understanding, like the Bible says. My version, my John Peterson translation is you're going to have peace when it doesn't make sense, right? So then it's just like, okay, this sucks and whatever's happening. But again, where you're able to speak to your thoughts, you can speak to those lies, right? And so so we talked about what you kind of felt negative thoughts as far as when you met with Tom Sherman. What about with Dina when you were headed to that interview? Like you said, you hadn't been interviewed in a while. Like, what kind of thoughts were you having against you? Because obviously you wanted to come to Monument.
Yeah.
So, like, what thoughts were against you were you hearing?
Nervousness was the biggest thing that, I went into that interview pretty confident I wasn't going to interview anywhere else.
Okay.
Because
so you already made a decision.
Suija, who's in my life, as you know, and a dear friend and mentor as well, she was the one who'd been in real estate forever.
She the one that came to our class last time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's been in real estate multiple decades, tons of experience, but we're also very close as friends outside of work. And so when she and I first had that conversation, I valued her opinion a lot because, as we see in real estate, people bounce around from brokerages all the time. Pros and cons here, pros and cons there, whatever. And so I've listened very carefully when she was like, this is different, and here's why. Like, they do this.
That's cool.
They want to take this risk. And I told Dina when I interviewed, I was like, I'm looking for somebody innovative to do dumb things, to take risks, to do smart things. Like, I want somebody like that, because you look around at all these other brokers, right? These big names like KW and Ebby and Remax. And,
right.
Not to say there's anything wrong with them, but a lot of it's this traditional kind of cookie cutter crap. And I'm like, that doesn't even excite me.
Right.
I want somebody who's pushing the boundaries. And in this day and age with technology, like, we're just developing so much and adapting all the time. I wanted somebody who's willing to do that. And based on everything I heard in my interview with Dina, I was like, okay, this seems like it. Of course, we don't know that until the proof's in the pudding, right?
Of course, so you get into it.
Weeks later, months later, you start seeing that. And I, sure enough, started seeing that quickly. And then I started even getting feedback from people in SEALs with me, and then other people I was starting to meet, where they were like, listen, this training is next level. Like, this is way more intentional, way more resources, way more people that... Because here's the thing, too. Like, those people that I mentioned earlier, there's kind of those bigger names at Monument. when they made time for me, that was huge. When anybody makes time for me, it's huge. It doesn't matter if you're a homeless person or the president, right? Yeah. I mean, it's a big deal in life when people make time for one another because you can't get it back and you can't make more.
I agree.
So when those people at that level, when I would recognize them making time for me, I'm like, dang, this is a person that's kind of a big shot that you meet with this little guppy.
And you're like, new agent of guppy. I love that.
That's an honor, right? And so when people would ask how I knew people or why, I was thinking a certain way or how I learned something, I'm like, it's because I went and I pursued these people, spent time with them, right? But with the interview with Dina, I was nervous, like we all are, getting ready for an interview. But then I became less nervous when I leveled the playing field with her in that interview.
And told her straight up.
Yeah. And then the funny thing was I had a post-interview, I guess you could say, or follow-up, right, with Trish and Tammy Bunk used to work with us, right? So Trish and Tammy interviewed me.
This is before you start Seals.
This is still before I started. Yeah. Okay, Dina interviewed me solo. Usually Eddie's in it. But he wasn't on that one with Dina. So it was just Dina on the first one, and it was Trish and Tammy on the second one.
Okay.
And I'll never forget Trisha. I don't want to butcher the word. I think she said adversity, or she asked me one of the questions, one of the very interviewee type questions, right? Which it was a good one. She was like, "Can you give us an example of how you've kind of like overcome or dealt with adversity?"
Okay.
And I just grinned because you know my story. So I was like, how much time you got?
Exactly.
So then I told them about what I had literally like just finished recovering from. With my divorce and my ex-wife's infidelity and the depression and I laid it out.
Life.
And by the end of it, she was like, "Yeah, okay, so that's a good response."
He's dealt with adversity. Check the box. Next question.
Done.
What a funny question to ask you.
But what perfect timing.
Well, of course.
At 31 years of age and just being through everything I'd been through in 2020, recovering. That's the thing, man. Is like, so many people in my generation, right, and really anybody that experienced COVID in 2020, right? You're never gonna forget that. It's like 9/11. Like I remember where I was.
Yep, same here, bro.
The planes hit the towers, right?
Yep.
2020 is going to be that in a different way. It's just going to be one of those like memorable moments. Maybe memorable isn't the right word, but you know what I mean. Like you're going to never forget it. It's always going to be there. You're going to remember how your life changed. Mostly negative, probably. For me, all I remember is really positive because I did that program at my church, the Regen, right? It's like a 12-step recovery program. I did that, and I focused on the Lord all year instead of on myself. That was people's biggest issue, in my opinion, with all that shit. Is all of a sudden you were forced to just focus more on yourself, whether you wanted to or not.
Right.
And then that turned into so much negativity, so much doubt, so much fear, so much chaos. It's crazy.
Well, because the real stuff starts coming to the top, bro.
100%.
Because usually so many people are just busy with life, right? Busy. We don't have time to think.
Yeah.
Right? From the time you get up,
you gotta start dealing
pick
with
up your
stuff.
phone. Well, that's it, bro. So that's why those weekend retreats. Yep. I've even thought about doing maybe some retreats like that over the weekend because the identity seminar that I speak at, it was a Friday night for like 3 hours and then a Saturday from like 10 to like 3. Yeah. I'm going to try to do my own, maybe like a 4-hour one.
Sure.
But it was always interesting because people would come up to me afterwards and be like, "Oh my gosh, this was insane." Like, you know what I mean? Let's just say the Saturday, right? They would come up afterwards and go like, "This is insane. How I heard so clearly from God, this, that, whatever. I've never heard this clearly from him." I said, so they're thinking it's me, right? So they're giving me, and I said, well, let me just stop you right there. It's not me.
Yeah.
I said, yes, I'm speaking truth. I'm teaching and all that kind of stuff, right? This is part of my anointing and my gifting. I said, but the real reason why you're hearing so clearly from God, I go, when is the last time you spent 6 hours with him?
Yeah.
And they're like, what?
Being intentional.
Well, that's it, bro. Well, and not only intentional, my friend, the kids are not there. Your pets are not there. That's it, dude. Yeah. Right? So then as we kind of put all that down, now we can really hear the stuff some people push it away, bro, but some people are just so busy. And so to me, I think that's the coolest thing. I think it was Latedrin that I was interviewing, one of the agents on my pod last week. And she said self-talk.
Yeah.
Like and I'm like, I'm a huge believer in that, bro. Yeah. Right? You talk to other people and they're like, oh, that's weird. This, it's true.
Everybody thinks something's weird if they haven't done it.
Exactly.
It's like, that's always my first response from people a lot of times is they're like, oh, that's dumb or that's weird. I'm like, really? Have you tried it?
Yeah.
Like the breathing technique stuff.
Right? Oh, yeah.
You guys did that with me. I thought it was BS.
Well, that's it. In the
first time I did it.
Of course, bro. That's what I'm talking about. When you first do it, it's awkward. It's weird. You're having the thoughts, this is stupid. Yeah. I mean, us laying there and I'm like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? But then after we did that, what was it, 5 minutes total maybe?
Bro, so we did 2 cadence exercises.
Okay.
We did, I think, rough memory, we probably did a 5x5 and then for 3 minutes, and then we did a 12-10, 12-10 for 2 minutes. So I only prepped y'all physically for 5 minutes.
Okay.
And then Vic held for 58 seconds. You held for 1:09, bro, at 12,000 altitude.
And never done it before. Like that was the
no,
first time.
And I only made it. I still. So my average, I think I've shared with you, is kind of around that 3:10 mark, 3 minute 10 second. My highest is 3:35 up to this date, but I think I still had a 2:48.
Right.
But that's only after 24 hours of acclimating to that.
To that higher altitude, yes.
Because you and I both, I was smiling so hard when you said, I can feel my heartbeat in my spine.
Oh, dude, that was a trip.
I can feel my heartbeat in the back of my head, in my spine, in my chest, and in my hands, in my palms.
It was intense, dude.
It was extremely intense because of the altitude. It changed it. That was why that was even more intense than that typically is. I never really have that here.
Okay.
I might focus on my heartbeat at some point, but that means you're not letting your mind go. That's
well, bro, in that I felt so relaxed. Like honestly, when you're like, all right, like I was getting up, I was just like, almost felt lethargic. Like I need to just go lay in bed. Well, exactly. Did you feel it too, Vic? Did you? Okay, yeah. So the same thing. Dude, it was. But again, it's like, okay, what are we doing? And they're like, hold it and blow out this, that, whatever. And it's like, right. And I'm like, okay. But again, it's like, what are we doing? Yeah, we're like,
oh man, what's about to happen in here?
Like, we're in a cabin in the woods. Like I've heard the story before. Yeah. And so no, bro. But it was just one of those things, right? Again, just I've never done it. This is weird. That's it.
Can't argue.
The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, so speaking of that,
it's the same thing with faith, but yeah.
Well, absolutely. So I was going to say, let's talk about the leads. You said you took some, right? Because again, these are going to be agents that are watching this that are maybe not part of Monument. Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So tell us, what was your experience about the leads? Because these are the ones that are VIP, Realtor.com, Zillow.com, and then our team is actually setting the appointment, right? So how does it work?
Well, so for me, it was very different because I started before Realtor and Zillow partnerships.
Interesting. Okay.
So we were still, to my understanding, traditionally a brokerage, a small broker, individual team, whatever, buys up a certain amount of leads and zip codes and that kind of thing with Zillow and Realtor, right?
Correct.
So we were already doing that at probably a pretty good level because of the budget that Eddie was spending on that kind of stuff, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
What I didn't know about was the exclusive partnership with Realtor.com and Zillow that was approaching, and that would have been March is when we found that out.
Of last year.
What Dina didn't reveal any of that, of course, right?
And because it was just brewing. Because they
who knows how much that... I'm sure the conversations were already being had, for sure, for how much money was involved.
Yep.
And Dallas Cowboys. So all three of those things, I didn't find out until last week of March, first week of April. Even
so you joined before
all that. See, all the people that are joined now, they know about all that. I joined before that could have been even talked about.
Okay, so then let's go back to that. I didn't realize that. What made you, one, how did you hear about Monument? And two, what made you want to come join?
Ann.
Oh, that's right.
Ann was everything.
Ann, okay.
Ann, I mean, there you go, Ann, right?
Yeah.
And I mean,
out.
There you go, Dina. It was Ann,
exactly.
Right? But she didn't even have to sell it, bro. She just talked about, again, like, here's been my experience at other brokerages. Here's what other brokerages are going to tell you they can promise. Mm-hmm. She was just helping me think all that through.
But see, dude, that's huge because that's the...
And a lot of people don't have that.
No, and I was going to tell you, especially new agents.
No.
They don't realize how spoiled they are with us, the leads, the VIP leads.
They have no idea.
Setting appointments, right? So when they want to complain, I'm like, are you kidding me? But the ones that have been at another brokerage... So obviously Ann had something to compare it to. Right. And so, like, honestly, I hope that the agents get it, right? Because if they're not productive, they can't stay here.
No, and they don't. And frankly, it's not about, I don't want to be too harsh, but you don't deserve it. You don't deserve it because there's other people out there that might fight harder than you that do deserve it. That's what makes you deserve it or not, right? I'll never forget last year when Trish, I had just graduated, right? 5 months into the program.
A month early, yep.
A month, yeah. So I just graduated, and probably around that, 7-month mark, Trish was like, hey, can you come in first week when seals start and just give, your 2 cents or like what I'm doing right now, right? Like, what was your experience kind of thing? And I told her, I was like, point blank, I'll do it on one condition. You don't get to tell me what to say or how to say it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know that's scary because it's me, especially, right?
Right.
But I was like, but if you trust me, then I'm down. Otherwise, I'm really not interested because people need to know what they need to know. Like
the real stuff,
or what they don't know, right? Yeah. So, and you know me, man. I'm right to the point.
Shoot straight, yeah.
Just shoot straight.
That's
sometimes it's more colorful than others, right?
Right.
Try to rein it in, be respectful, but,
right?
So yeah, whenever I go do that, I always tell them like, hey, listen, like if you're here to learn, if you're hungry, if you're driven, if you want to build a business, if you want to relate with others, if you want to know more people, if you want to like all these great things,
right?
Like if you want to do all that, this place is awesome. Yeah. And here's why, right? Here's what we care about. Here's how we build our culture. Here's how we equip our agents, all that kind of stuff. The reverse is true too, though. If you're here to be selfish, just thinking about yourself, not be a team player, not give back, be a jerk, not have a good work ethic, then frankly, the door you just walked in, go ahead and get out of here. You're wasting my time, and you're wasting your time. That's so the truth. We literally don't want you here.
Well, it goes back to that culture her and I were talking about and setting the bar.
Bro, yeah.
We have to. Yeah.
When I took Todd Richardson and Nick Patel out for lunch one time, right? These are two guys that are still agents with us at Monument. Went through the sales training.
We were just hanging out with Nick the other night.
Yeah. So I love them to death. Both great guys. Both killing it right now, too.
Yep, doing good.
So I took them to lunch. And you know me, man. I'm passionate, right? Especially when I've had lunch. Today, I'm surprised I'm doing this good with how I'm fasting right now.
Yeah, with no food.
So I took them to lunch, and I was like, man, just in their face about it, pumped up, and be like, yeah, this is how we do it. And Nick, I'll never forget, he's like, dude, do you have like part ownership in Monument? And I was like, no. Why would you think that? He's like, dude, the way you talk about this. And I'm like, listen, I talk about it as if I own a part of it. Because frankly, bro, if you work here, that's how you should think about this. You're being given an opportunity. Every time you walk into that office, you need to remember, I was given an opportunity to step foot here. I was given an opportunity to show up for training. I was given an opportunity to continue performing at this level and being surrounded by the support that I have here. You were given that. That's a blessing. It doesn't matter if you're a top producer in a month or not. Right. We're all being blessed in that way and given an opportunity.
Big time.
To do that, right? So I'm like, you're a brand ambassador, man. You walk out there and you be confident about it. And you represent us well and you treat others with respect and you be kind and you go serve and you go, like, that's who you need to be. Well, but if you're not that agent, bro, then that's okay if you want to be that. Yeah. But you're not going to do it here.
Of course.
We have to protect what we have.
That's exactly right. Well, and I think it goes back to leadership, dude, right? It's like you do take ownership. You act like it's yours. And so that's funny. I didn't know they had actually asked you that. Like, are you part? Like, you're so passionate about it.
When I went and did a level up speaking.
In Fort Worth?
No. I did it at Frisco.
Oh, okay.
About a month or two ago.
Okay.
Which, for people listening that don't know what level up is, it's our opportunity to kind of bring other agents in from other brokerages, kind of explain why they should join and be giving real feedback, right?
Yep.
So I was asked to come to one of the level ups and just kind of give my spiel, just like we're doing now.
Yeah.
And here's what was cool as a psychological kind of experiment that just naturally and organically took place. So Jen Brandt was in the office. Dean was in the office. Trish was in the office. A couple other agents that have done really well, right, at Monument. And then another young lady, I don't remember who was with me that day, but another SEAL graduate, right? And the coolest thing about that whole exchange, through us talking about why Monument's great, what we have to offer, and how we're different, people sharing testimonies like me, is at one point Dina was like, man, Cody, we're just so proud of him in this way, and like, just what a leader, and whatever. And then Jen would say something, and I'd be like, man, if you guys don't know Jen, like, Jen is this amazing woman for all these different reasons, So what ended up happening was you got all these people that genuinely care, right? And I kind of started realizing that was the affirmations were just organically appearing in this conversation. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
So by the end of it, before they broke and ended the meeting, I told Dean, I was like, I got to say one more thing. I was like, did you guys, I don't know if anybody else caught what I just listened to over the past 30 minutes, but in case you missed it, it took no effort for people that are leadership in this room and people that are just involved even at ground level to recognize one another, compliment one another, affirm each other, and lift others up. I was like, what you just experienced there was not rehearsed, was not planned, and it just organically took place.
Because that's who they are at their core, brother.
Yeah, so I'm like, if you're really looking for a reason, if you want to be a part of a team like that, you just experienced it. And I'm not even trying to sell you something. Like, if you go find that somewhere else, fantastic. You don't a lot of times find that somewhere else.
Bro, that's so true. When I first joined in November, right? And I even told Dina this, as a recruiter, they hired me as a recruiter and a coach. I didn't realize I was going into leadership. So being in the meetings, right, in the big conference room and just sitting there and just hearing everyone speak, bro, and just being real and genuine, no egos, no arrogance.
So many people aren't jealous of the other people, which is crazy.
Which is huge, bro, because that's always been my thing, dude. There's enough houses for everybody.
Yeah.
There's enough buyers, there's enough sellers.
Full of like arrogance, entitlement, pride.
Well, not
ego,
only that,
like,
dude. If someone, you're right, and when they're successful, right? Let's just say someone's farming and they're doing a great job.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, man, can I take you to coffee or pick your brain or have lunch, right? And it's like, can you show me what you? They don't.
Yeah, I know.
They don't. And it was like, what?
That's what I would tell agents. I'm like, listen, when you go to these, like our meeting this week, right? We do a company meeting every month, once a month, and not everybody, but you know what I mean. But a lot of people.
Are there. Yep.
And there's people that it's their first week, and there's people it's their 30th year, and they just freaking crush it, right? So I look around, and I'm like, if you're not stepping out in faith to just have a conversation, to get to know somebody different, somebody new, it is your fault at the end of the day that you didn't have more opportunity. You didn't go out of your way to try and create more opportunity. Life does not come and to say, hey,
because the opportunities are in front of you at Monument, bro. I agree 100% with that. Yep.
Just start by having conversations with people. I mean, good grief. I can talk on that forever.
I know exactly.
To me, it's common sense. It's easy. I understand it's not that way for everybody, but you gotta do something different. You can't just expect change for no reason.
No, I agree with that. And so then, how long was it afterwards that they announced the Cowboys started buying the VIP?
3 months.
Nice. Okay, so in March. And then is that also when they did the VIP Zillow leads and Realtor.com leads?
So we've had a kind of a roller coaster ride with that, like figuring that out, right? Because the volume was
insane.
Yeah, I mean, I was agent 154. We're at 600-700 plus.
Yeah, we're there. I think the last number was like 637 or something.
Yeah. I mean, that's 15 months ago, bro.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, if that doesn't speak to itself, I don't know what does.
No, that's true.
So, but a lot of that was in turn reaction to the amount of volume we started having.
I see what
we
you're
had
saying.
Exclusivity with Realtor and Zillow in terms of first come first serve on leads.
Right.
So ISA had to grow and change.
Oh, without a doubt.
Amount of agents had to grow and change. Incorporating other brokerages that we eventually absorbed, like the associates happened before. That was after I joined too. Like all that last year was huge.
There was a lot of change.
Monument made some speed.
Big time.
And there's growing pains with that, right?
Oh, without a doubt.
So with people that come and they're a part of SEALs or they're not or whatever, anywhere in between, I always think it's good to be honest with one another. If you're experiencing something that's frustrating, obviously voice it and have a respectful conversation about it with the parties that are involved or whatever.
Correct.
But all that to be said, a lot of times when agents are just griping and complaining, I'm like, hey, listen, yes, that's frustrating. I understand how that can be difficult. But have you taken a step back to extend grace and see that leadership is doing their best to do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And how hard it is to tackle and figure out how to do that well.
Right.
Because as business owners and people that are leaders, right? Like Eddie's got a lot of pressure on him. Probably
Absolutely.
the most, right?
Yeah.
So does Trish. So does Dina. So does anybody
without
that's
a doubt.
in our leadership.
At the top,
there's a massive amount of pressure. And the funny thing is, everybody that's beneath them thinks they know how to do it better.
Oh,
that's the beauty of that.
Always.
That arrogance and ego, right?
Right. But yet none of them have started their own company.
Right.
They all feel that
Or they don't even know how to do their own, bro. Real estate is your own company. You don't even know how to manage yourself, and all of a sudden you're telling a guy that's throwing around a couple, million a year doing this, that, and the other. You think you have a better idea. That blows my mind. Feedback's important. Don't get me wrong,
bro.
Right?
That's crazy. Was it this morning? Let me see something.
It's arrogance, man.
There was something along.
That's why you sit there and ask questions. Hey, this is how this is being affected. How could we tackle that? Or
so I just literally did this screenshot. Let's see. It's
today.
Probably about noon. It was probably about noon. And it's what's his name? You'll see him.
Oh, dude, Phil Robertson.
Yeah. So check out what he said. A friend of mine posted it. Paul Hansen.
He's good.
Check out what it says though. To your point exactly, it says no one notices your tears, no one notices your sadness, no one notices your pain, but they all notice your mistakes. And then he goes on to say the same type of person that can see a splinter in your eye, but can't see the log in their own eye, right?
Which comes from a really
exactly
good book,
my favorite
by
book.
The way. Yeah.
Exactly. So, dude, it's crazy that you were just saying that, but they see it, right? It's just.
But man, here's the thing too, right? And recently I've started seeing this challenge in my life with relationships. Is people want the cars, people want the fame, people want the whatever the comfort is, right? Or the reward, right? People want all these things as a result of success. There's nothing wrong with those things as long as those don't become idols in our life, right?
Correct.
And doesn't take away from our relationships with that and all that kind of stuff. But in order to come close to any level of success, especially when it's a higher degree than most people's norm, right? You have to make a lot of sacrifice.
Right. And that's what no one wants to do.
That's what nobody wants to do long term. At the beginning, they might do it. It's like going and working out, right? Like you might do it for a week, a month, a year, whatever. But in terms of like for the rest of your life, like you look at people like Michael Jordan's one of the easiest examples.
Right.
You ever watched the Final Dance on Netflix?
Dude, I haven't. I heard you talking about it the other day.
I'm serious. Like I'll watch it as many times as I need to.
Okay.
Because what's amazing about it is you got people like Scottie Pippen and all these other dudes that played with them back in the day, and Scottie, I think it was him that said it. It was like, dude, the guy was an asshole.
Right.
Like
I've heard.
He was like the biggest jerk on the court. He, his biggest personality in the room. Like, and if you made a mistake, he didn't let you.
Called you out.
Yeah. So here he is being this extreme side of a personality, but you look at what he achieved at the same time. It took a lot of sacrifice to get. Nobody can come close to it.
Right.
That's why he's always going to be talked about.
Right.
I mean, it's ridiculous, right? But people don't want to give that up. They don't want to work that hard. And then on top of that, and there's one moment in that documentary I think is just gold. And I think a lot of people probably wouldn't pick this out, but I think it's one of the best moments.
Okay.
He's literally in a hotel room, and they've got cameramen following him around, nonstop while they're doing this, right? And he had that in his lifestyle anyway. And there's this one moment in his hotel room, he's laying on a couch he doesn't even fit on because he's huge, right? Yeah. And he's like, I need y'all to leave. Like, I'm so sick of y'all. Like, I just need y'all to leave. I've had it today. Like, whatever. Like, it's just one of those. He just breaking down.
Interesting. Okay,
it's
yeah.
just raw, and he's probably telling him a lot more colorfully how to get out of the room, right?
Yeah.
But the point is, here this man is with all this money, all this fame, all this success, all these cars, women, whatever he had, right?
Yep.
And at the end of the day, you saw this like raw brokenness of just exhaustion, rightfully so with how hard he worked and everything, right? But so are you willing to go through what he's living in that moment? You're willing to do a lot of those moments.
Right.
The tears, the agony, the physical pain, the emotional pain, the financial loss, the whatever. Are you willing? Because most people, you pitch them that, they're not going to be like, that sounds like a lot. I think I'm good. People don't want
the
that.
Instant success, bro.
They want the gratification.
The lottery. They want
gratification.
Of course.
Yeah.
So how do you relate that to what your experience has been with real estate, being a new agent, really? So basically, last year was
I wasn't worried about the money.
You weren't? No. Okay, that's interesting. So what motivated you?
That was, well, first of all, I was broke. So that motivated me quick, right? Yeah. Picked up a good amount of debt for my divorce after that with how that transpired and occurred and everything. And listen, mine was minuscule compared to some people out there, right? But
still, it was a lot for you. Exactly.
And being broke, it don't matter, right? So when we referenced lunch earlier, taking people to lunches. Well, frankly, I couldn't afford the lunches, if I'm being honest, right? It was just going on a credit card. Right. And until I made a sale or two, right? Yeah. And people were asking me, like, how are you taking all these people to lunch? Because, bro, I was going, and you know my schedule now. Like, I have lunch 5 days a week, different people every week. I'm booked 2 to 3 weeks out on average. Like, it's just how I roll. Because I have the freedom to do that in my life right now. Yep. And I love it, right?
That's what you want to do.
So last year, 5-6 months in, people were like, especially newer agents, right? Because that's what we're talking to.
Yes.
They're like, how are you doing this? How are you affording this? I'm like, you're thinking this big. People can't see me on the mic, but like small, right? Yep. You're thinking way too small-minded. I'm thinking way past anything you've ever thought of.
Exactly.
I'm thinking this way, you're thinking this way, right? So when you start getting caught up and listen, having a budget, having all that kind of stuff, being smart with your money, like I'm not saying be reckless and irresponsible. But frankly, you look at some people that start having success quicker than others, it's because they are being reckless and irresponsible with money, right? Again, you figure out what's best for you at the end of the day and what level of risk you're willing to take. That's another difference. I would tell people, I'm like, listen, I'm here to take more risk, and I can, than you because you got kids.
Right.
I agree, or because you have this. Or because you have this. I'm single.
Being single.
I got more energy than I even know what to do with. Right. And I don't care.
Right.
What's the worst outcome? I make no money and I accumulate $20,000 more in debt by the end of the year? Okay. Yeah.
But at least now you know.
Yeah. So I just kept doing it. And then now here I am this year focusing more on marketing.
Right.
Putting money into building a brand and putting money into doing things like handling my business in that way and testing things out. There's no promise or guarantee it's going to work or lead to business.
Well, bro, but it goes back to like last year. You had a plan, right? Because you're like, I'm going to get connected. I'm going to be known.
Yeah.
Right. Not only that, when you're having lunch with people, dude, like they drop ideas in your mind.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
They give you ideas.
You need to be a good listener.
Well, that's it,
For
right?
Sure.
But not only did you have the plan, yes, you're putting on a credit card, but dude, honestly, like that was an investment. Because you're like, I'm not going to.
That's exactly what it is. And then, I mean, if we're being honest, it's all a tax write-off, and we can do 100% on food. But that wasn't the point. The point was, I'm spending time and gaining more from conversation than I am from anything.
But it goes back to problem solving, bro. Because you're like, okay, my problem is I want to take people out to lunch every day and pay for it, but I don't have any money. Right? Most people, that's where they stop.
Yeah.
Right? But then it's like, well, how can I make? Well, I do have a credit card. Well, so to me, right, that quote I came up with, what you believe dictates what you do, you believed it, bro. Or else you would not have put 20 G's.
No, that's very true. That's very true.
That's what I'm saying, bro. And that's what I'm trying to help people.
There wasn't a fallback.
No.
If you create the fallback, you will not do it. Okay, bring in Tom up again, okay? When I talked to him about getting into real estate back in 16, okay, because that's when the thought was kind of birthed by my ex-wife's uncle. And at the time, I was like, oh, man, that'd be sweet, build an empire with this guy. I mean, he and I were very, very close. Still are.
Yeah.
Love him, right? And was honored that he believed in me in that way.
Very right? True. Well, because he saw it in you. Yeah.
He did. And I was honored by that because I'd never even thought of that before. I'd never thought of real estate before. And back then, I talked with, his name's David. I talked with David about, getting involved with real estate with them. And then I knew Tom because of David at the time. And I went to breakfast with Tom one day. And again, one of these moments I'll never forget. I was like, hey, here's my plan. Like, keep doing my job, get into real estate part-time, start working for David and his team and learning and getting mentored in that way. And then just eventually going cold turkey but having some sort of income, right? Because my ex-wife, she did hospice, right?
No,
so
correct.
You want to talk about people that are so valued and so underpaid. It's hospice.
Hospice nurses,
It's pathetic, right? Because they are angels, saints, what they put up with and do for people. So I knew, we couldn't just fall back on her income. That's why I bring it up, right?
Of course.
And I knew what I was kind of expected to make. And then I also knew just roughly where our savings was at. It wasn't pretty to take that risk and be a husband and a provider in that moment,
and just go 100%.
And take that level of risk. At least that's what I thought. So I remember Tom being like, hey, listen, you could do that, but you're not going to achieve what you want to achieve at the rate you would prefer to achieve it. And this is back when I was 26 years old. I'm 32 now, right?
Right.
He's like, you need to quit and go full time. And that terrified me.
Without a doubt.
And bro, you and I both talk about this all the time. All fear does is paralyze you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how big or small it is, right? So I remember thinking to myself, man, that's scary. Just the natural thought that we all have,
of
right?
Course.
And we're in a pandemic, and I'm quitting a job with benefits, and I'm broke, and people are like, what is wrong with you?
It defies logic.
And I'm like, I have nothing to lose.
It defies well, that's it.
And I'm crazy, and I'm hungry, and I don't care. And frankly, what you think, I'm here to get advice and not be arrogant or whatever, right? Tell me about what I should be looking out for or expect or how I can react or do things differently. But at the same time, I'm just going to do it.
Bro, there's something, though, about hitting rock bottom. So, you know a little bit about my story, hitting rock bottom. This is the beauty, in my opinion. This is my experience of rock bottom.
It strips it away.
Bro, it takes everything away.
Yeah.
So what I tease is that, talking about rock bottom, is that I've been to hell and back and got the T-shirt.
Yeah.
Right, bro? When you realize that you could lose everything and you're still alive.
Yeah.
And you lose everything and you're still okay. It changes you, bro.
It does.
And it puts something in you where you're like, I have nothing to lose.
Well, you're fearless, right?
Well,
we talk about when we bring our faith into it, and we're talking about all our value, especially when we get to teach too.
Yes.
And I love this about Monument. Holy smokes. I get to wear a gun, talk about guns, and talk about Christ all at the same time.
Right.
And I'm not told to leave or that I'm fired.
In
this day and age, that's kudos
priceless,
to them, right?
Yeah.
Freedom, right? That's what we should have. And so anyway, to your point with the
rock bottom. We were talking about rock bottom. It changes you.
Yeah. So
fearless.
So just losing everything, right? Mm-hmm. When I went through that recovery program and the Lord spoke to me. That's the second time I heard from him that summer was when he told me, hey, you're a child of God and all your values are wrapped up in that alone. I realized it doesn't matter what I make. It doesn't matter what I've been through. It doesn't matter the shortcomings I have in the future. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. Every day I wake up, I'm a child of the King.
That's it.
Period. So what you think of me, it really doesn't matter. Mm-mm. What you think I could be doing better, I might need to listen and try to do that for sure.
Of course.
At the end of the day, you can live in a way that's fearless, and it really starts to help you, especially mentally.
Well, bro, and when God told you that, right? So when your identity is in Him, because I teach on identity.
Yeah.
It wasn't until, I already believed a lot of this stuff, but it wasn't until I took this class and then actually started helping teach it, the identity class, that, dude, it was I don't know. I knew a lot of this stuff, but it was so eye-opening to go, dude, this is crazy. My identity is in Christ, which no one can take it away from me, because I've talked to people that were this one girl was a cop, and I guess she went through a divorce, and because of that, so that was her identity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So she had to quit,
sure,
right, because of the divorce, and he had a kid now and couldn't do the whatever.
Yep.
She fell into a funk.
Yep.
Right, and it's the same thing with the quarterback, right, the stud.
Yep.
Right, if something happens to him and he doesn't make it to the NFL, now what's he doing?
Who is he? What does he do?
Mm-hmm. The businessman. The money and success and fame is his identity. He files bankruptcy and loses everything. He's in a funk, right? So to me, it was absolutely mind-blowing to go, dude, I can't lose. That's how I felt when I hit rock bottom, and I already knew about my identity, but it solidified it.
Sure.
And where I was like, dude, I feel unstoppable.
Yeah, it's truly it's one of the most freeing.
Without
and again,
doubt.
It was like a light switch turned on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my whole life up to that point, I didn't believe, and it wasn't even belief, it was understanding. I didn't have that understanding.
Yeah.
And when God works supernaturally in ways where we just have, Pastor Keith Kraft at
Elevation.
Elevate, in Frisco,
Elevate,
right?
yeah.
He calls them aha moments. I'll never forget that. I heard him say that when he was 24, 25.
Uh-huh.
And I thought it was the goofiest sounding thing at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now all I do is talk about, man, I had an aha moment.
Yeah, exactly. It hits you.
I'll voice memo friends,
thing.
And I'll be like, man, I just had an aha moment. And it is something as simple as, isn't it amazing how the Earth rotates at a certain speed, at a certain distance from the sun to provide this, and this benefit at different times of the year.
We're at the perfect distance, the perfect tilt.
Yeah,
everything.
Are you not in wonderment? Like those aha moments, right? Like there are certain moments of clarity where, and I feel like that's just the Holy Spirit just drawing it. I feel like that's the Lord just saying, hey, listen, that was me. Remember, that was me.
Bro, and that's the thing. Like, it goes back to what you believe in your identity, right? So, like, I tell people sometimes when I'm teaching, it's like, I believe that we were born, right? Created from God, right? All that stuff, creation. There's other people that I know that are not believers, believe in, what's the one where we come from monkeys and all that? Evolution.
Evolution,
right? Dude, those are the ones that are trying to sleep with everything that moves.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, well, it kind of makes sense. You believe you came from animals, so you're going to act like an animal.
Usually hollow and disappointed and
without a doubt. Without a doubt.
And,
right? But they don't want to talk about that.
Right.
They have the, and that's why I'm having you on here, bro. Because here's the thing. I can't tell you how many guys that I've met that have hit the $1 million mark, right? They're millionaires, and they're still miserable.
Yep.
They felt that, because this is what the society and the world told them, is like, bro, that's it. Once you hit it, that's the pinnacle. And they're like, yeah, I partied hard for a couple days, but then it was like, because inside, they still had the same thoughts, felt the same way, believed the same way. Yeah, they got $1 million in the bank, but bro, they were just like. So then and some of them, I've heard their testimonies that I don't know, and they're like, actually, that's when I went a little crazy, because it's like, this was my whole life, what I was shooting for, right? They were in their 30s, they hit it, and they're like, this isn't it.
Yeah.
So one, they feel like they got, you know what I mean, like, told a lie,
yeah.
which it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, and that's what I want, is just guys like yourself, women that I've already interviewed, that are going to get real and talk about it, bro. Because that's what I'm saying. Like, so much of our life is how we were raised.
Yeah. Right?
The stuff that we believe, whether it was right or wrong.
What influences you? Social media, friends, family,
of course, bro.
Society.
Absolutely. Because if you had a parent that raised you that you're a loser, you're never going to amount to anything, and you believe it, then you won't.
Dude, that's why when we teach mindset and value, it's so huge when we sit down and do what are I am statements. What's your why and what are the I am statements in your life, right? So, like, I do 3 I ams and 3 gratitudes every single day.
Right.
Because there's always 3 things minimum in those 2 categories that you could tell yourself every day. I am confident. I am a leader.
Right.
I am excited to be alive. I mean, I literally, and those are just, I'm spitballing that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean, it could be anything. Gratitude, same thing, right? So it kills me when people don't, again, but that's choice. It's a choice to remind yourself. It's a choice. What are you feeding your mind and your heart, right?
Right.
If it's things like these temporary satisfactions like casual sex or drugs or alcohol or addiction to money or overspending or I mean, literally, right? It could be anything. Could be all these things.
Yeah.
It's short-term satisfaction and
time.
pleasure. Short-term. Versus the joy that I have in my life. It cracks me up when people are like confused by me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if you're trying to understand the joy of my life, but you don't know the Lord, it's going to be a mystery to you. Right. Like what that's I have and what I'm filled with does not make sense. But that's the beauty. It doesn't make
logical. Exactly.
You're going to want me to explain it, and I'm going to tell you right now, we don't have a vocabulary and brain power capable of fully explaining it. Like this is just cracking the surface of what my God is and is capable.
And that's what I'm trying to, bro. What you just said exactly is what the problem I'm having with trying to explain the emotional healing part of it.
Yeah.
Because I've had people go, okay, well, yeah, but what do I expect and how does it go? And I'm like,
or how do I get there like tomorrow?
Well, of course. And I'm just like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, you just have to experience it.
Yeah.
Right? And the people have had the breakthrough, so I know it works.
Yeah.
Right? But it's like, because a lot of times you start telling them the process and they're like, no, I'm not cool with that. It's like, okay, well, what you're doing is not working now. But yet you don't want to try something else because it's not logical. Right? Because it is having to do with God and Jesus and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's the coolest thing is that that's what one thing we connected on was just the Lord, right? And just spirit, no spirit. And again, just hanging out with you for all that time that day. Like I said, we didn't plan it that way. And I didn't know we would go that long. I just knew I was supposed to leave my schedule open.
Yeah.
But yeah, bro, I don't know. It's fascinating. That's why I love talking about mindset and the thoughts and just letting other new agents know and agents that have been around for a while. But it's just like, bro, that you can speak to these thoughts. You can do these things, right?
Well, and that, speaking of agents again, right, bringing it to real estate. So when I actually made this comment yesterday, we had that meeting at Monument, you know, our big one, and I was walking around the office and I look at the other side down by where we do our class, and there was probably, I don't know, 12 agents, but you like they were all sitting next to one another, but they were almost like all kind of like clumped, like it almost looked like a nervousness of like a group of 12, you know. Right. So in my head I'm like, oh, they're definitely SEALs.
Pack
you
of
know?
animals.
They're definitely newbies, you know.
Yeah.
So I go over there and I'm like, hey, are you guys SEAls? And they're like, yeah, and I'm like, called it, you know. Yep, I was exactly. Like, I love it, right? I wasn't poking fun. It was cracking me up looking at them. They had no idea that that's how that looked, right? And they're like group 31 or something. I mean, we're up to so many now, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But Anyway, I just told him, I was like, hey, listen, like, if you don't know the person across from you or next to you, like, you're already doing yourself a disservice. Like, this is your familia for the next 6 months.
So true.
Like, if you don't make that effort to create those bonds, like, there's people in my group that still, like, you know, Abby Best, Nikisha Smith, Chastity Mark, she's not with us anymore, but, like, just people that are dear and close to me that I still try to keep in touch with or motivate or check on or whatever, right? Like, you need that, especially as a new agent, in this, not just this market, but in this type of career. Because it's a very lonely career to have if you, especially when you're not on a team.
Yep.
And you don't start out on a team, at least with us, right? You got to kind of prove your worth and all that. But if you don't engage with other people and like hold them accountable and have them hold you accountable, and even just simple things like, how are you doing today?
Yeah.
Like, what a day. I mean, I had 2 calls with Abby today already where it was just like, she just needed to vent about the difficulties of our job.
The real life.
She needed that, right? Sometimes we need those moments where we pump each other up. Sometimes we need those moments where we celebrate each other. And sometimes you just have those moments where you just, listen, I need to vent.
Well, and that's it, bro. And that's where a peer comes in, because a lot of times I don't want to go to their coach or their trainer because they're being negative, but that's real talk.
No, that's honesty.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly. So as we wrap up, talk to the audience. What nuggets of wisdom or advice would you give for a new agent that is just starting? Our market is freaking insane. I've never seen anything like this. So, like,
you have to be determined, bro.
That's it. So what would you speak to?
Especially this market. This market's all I know.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that blows my mind. Like,
that's
and last year, at the end of last year, we were talking, dude, that's all I know. Like, these
interesting. That's the trip.
Like, this traditional market that you guys talk about.
It gets better,
yeah,
Cody.
Yeah. I think, see, I'm sitting here, I think you're bullshitting me. Like, I'm like, this is all it ever is.
You're like, I've read about this.
Yeah, Ann's like, I never used a full waiver until a year ago.
Oh, without a doubt.
And I'm like,
I didn't even know what it was.
It's all I know. Like, this cutthroat, this overpayment, this craziness, this speed, like, it's all I know.
Right.
So I'm like, man, the promised land's coming in 3 years when this level is out.
Dude,
like,
exactly.
man, if I can do well in this, I can slay.
To me, this, and I hate to say it, but the way we are right now, and then I went through the crash of 08,
yeah.
I like it in the fact that it's a thinning of the herd.
Yes.
Because when the real estate is amazing, bro, honestly, a monkey could be an agent and get paid, right? And it dilutes, and we get bad reputations because they're not people of integrity.
That's why people go with discount brokers.
Yep. And so that's why I kind of like I call it the thinning of the herd, because only the strong will stay, right? So what nuggets do you have, bro, for new agents right now?
I mean, if this is what you want to do, you have to be, we use the word relentless a lot, you and me, right? That is literally, has to be at your core. Or you're not going to make it. I'm just going to level with you. You're just not going to make it, right? Because this is exhausting. It's challenging. It's scary. You know, all the above, the market that we're dealing with right now. And it's not going to self-correct for a while. At least a year and a half, probably 2, right? It's just
going to be the way it is. Yeah. Supply and demand.
So if you're willing to sign up for that, as scary as that may sound, fantastic. Welcome aboard. Let's go, right? You cannot be afraid to take risk. And again, everybody's got different levels of risk that they can take. Totally get it. You got to figure out what that looks like for you. Yeah. And then create reasonable expectations for yourself. You got to get really good at scheduling. That is probably the hardest thing for new and experienced agents, is getting consistent with their schedule.
Big time.
Time blocking. Making time for yourself. Yep. Bro, I just talked with the agent earlier, and I was like, man, I tell you, one of the biggest things I struggled with last year, because I was just hustling.
Yeah, just go. Go 110%.
I didn't say no. I didn't sleep. I just hustled. That's all I did. Right. I didn't breathe, right? That's how it felt. This year, I'm much more focused on hustling, outperforming what I did last year, but at the same time, finding a better work-life balance. Because if I'm not creating that balance for myself, loving myself, taking care of my body, making time for family, taking these short pauses on trips and coming back, recharge. Like, if you're not doing that, you just got nothing in the tank. So you've got to find that balance. It's hard, especially at the beginning. And then treat this like a business. It's not for fun. It's not a fad, and hopefully it's not. I mean, if you're working for us, it's not part-time, because we don't hire part-time.
That's right.
So it is full commitment. And listen, if you're in a relationship, God bless you. Like, not to say it can't be done. It can be done very well. I have a lot of people, especially couples that are agents that are both agents, right?
Oh yeah, no,
I love watching couples that communicate well, love and extend grace well, that are both agents, both understanding of the craziness of our lives, right? But your spouse or your significant other better be on board for a flexible, crazy type schedule, right? And it doesn't have to be a negative.
No.
It doesn't have to be a negative.
It's just set the correct expectation with them.
Exactly. Just,
because think about it, a lot of times when we're showing properties or working with people, they work a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So our clients were doing nights and weekends.
Correct.
Right? So that's when your wife or significant other wants to go out, do stuff that. But
again,
it goes back to what. Well, that's it, bro. It goes back to what you want.
Yeah. So, and the other thing too, I'll add is, and especially in first year, this is a hard thing to figure out in any business you get into where you're an entrepreneur. Is building your brand.
Oh,
that is. I mean, I come from a marketing background with a lot of experience in branding and rebranding and helping people understand their own brand and stuff. Yeah. So that is a very important. It's almost like a heartbeat of your business, right?
Big time.
And it's a very hard thing to figure out. And you go through a lot of ups and downs of figuring it out, typically, right?
Well, and that's where coaches like me come in to help them, right? Because we've been down the road.
Yep.
We know how it works. We know what works, what doesn't. Exactly, bro.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think last year, as you know, my last name is Cobb, right? So I started putting a corn cob hat on people's heads at closing. And, I mean, it was just the goofiest, nuttiest,
but
dumbest.
People remember it, dude.
But that was the thing. I'll never forget, like, I think it was 5-6 months in one title company that I'd been to before. I came in. I left the corn hat in the car. I had to make a couple trips, right? She goes, "Are you the corn guy?" And I'm like, "Holy crap, it's working."
Exactly.
And I mean, I don't want to necessarily always be known as that, right? And that's not a part of like my official logo and brand now, but it is a part of like the culture of my brand.
Of course.
Because it's like, it's goofy, it's silly, it's different. Like the thing I love about it, and the reason I'm so committed to it is not because it's different, but because it makes people smile. Like,
that's cool.
Truly, that's one of my joys about closings is people see that. You cannot look at that, have that on your head, and not giggle or laugh and be like, this is just so ridiculous.
That's cool. So lighten up the mood and get them to smile.
So that was one of my biggest reasons for doing it. It wasn't about myself.
Right.
It was about, I want people to, it's a celebratory thing, right? These big transactions.
Oh, it's huge, bro. It's a huge deal
and
for them.
It takes a lot of emotions, ups and downs usually to get to that, right? But if I can put a smile on your face at the end of the day and know that you've got joy in your heart and you're satisfied and all this kind of, and the outcome was fantastic, boom, there you go.
I love it, bro.
And so now people look at that and that was another thing at the office, right? Oh, that's the corn guy, or that's the guy with the cowboy hat, or that's the so like building your brand, right? It's all these different elements, but I wasn't afraid to be myself.
Well, that's it, dude.
My brother, people like they were like, dude, I think this is a little extreme.
Of course.
And I'm like, good.
It always goes back to exactly. Dean and I were talking
about
that earlier.
I'm not afraid to take risks.
We don't listen. Well, not only that, it's like you love them, you respect them, but it's like I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna run my race. I'm staying in my lane.
Yeah.
This is what, for whatever reason.
Yeah, but does your lane look like everybody else's lane? Because then what makes you different?
Well, that's just like my website, right? We're fixing to launch probably in the next day or two. We're just gonna fix up some minor things, but my color's black. I love black.
Yeah.
I almost always wear a black shirt when teaching or whatever. In fact, today I went to grab my black shirt. Ended up getting this one, but that's my color, bro. I love it.
Yeah.
And so my website guy was like, bro, you can't do black. Like, we need red or blue, like these. And I'm like, black, bro. Like, that's just, So anyways, he ended up doing it, and then he did a video. He sent it to me and Victor the other day, just kind of scrolling through, showing the progress. He's like, bro, this black. He goes, that came out nice because it's all black, the background.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, it looks sleek. It looks sexy. Like it's, you know what I mean? And so, again, you got to go. It's your branding. It's you.
Yeah.
You got to feel real and authentic, right? Because if you feel like a fake or like, I'm not crazy about that.
People disconnect with that. They don't connect. That commercial I did recently, right, where I made that, and the whole point, we didn't even talk about real estate. I've had so many people reach out, and I'm very thankful and blessed that people have had this response because it was my intention, right? And I think this is called the golden ring concept, where instead of, like, if you had a target, right, in the middle, you have your why, next ring is your how, outer ring is your what. Right?
Oh, that's cool. I haven't heard that.
So if you think about stages, right? If you start from the inside and go out versus start from the outside and go in. Right? There's a huge difference, and especially an emotional impact or connection that's made one way versus the other. If you start with the what, right? Like my company makes cowboy hats. Here's how we make them kind of differently in our factories, and this is what makes them important. And as Texans, it's a part of our culture, so that's why we make them for Western wear and that kind of thing, right? That's cool. Well, that was the what, how, why.
Yeah.
Versus if we start by saying, as Texans, we're damn proud of that. And it's a pleasure and a privilege to be a part of being in this beautiful state and being around these amazing people. We love being around these amazing people in our factories that make fantastic quality hats.
Right.
And the reason we care about the quality is because we care about the expectations of others and how people appear. And you see what I'm doing? It's the complete opposite, right? So that the commercial for me was just the intention of, I want people to get to know me.
That's it, bro. That's exactly what
connection.
It was.
The first, I think, phrase or sentence, right, was, I want people to just have it had connection. The word connection is how it started, right? And then you see me involved with things that I enjoy doing.
So they've seen another side of you instead of just real estate.
Yeah.
Are you looking to buy, sell, or invest? Call Cody.
Didn't mention it once. Talked about people. Talked about how I want people to feel valued.
Well, and I love how you ended it, bro, with branding it, and it kind of catches fire a little bit. Like, you know what I'm saying?
That wasn't planned either. That was dope.
Really?
No, bro. We had one take. We had one take because that was the board that we used, as you saw,
that
right?
You were cutting.
So we would have had to reshoot all the other. So we tested it a little on one board, but we didn't get it that hot. That thing was smoking when we did it that time.
That was cool.
So that's why all the pressure pushed out the side, and then I was in
the little fire.
And I remember looking down, just holding it, being like not moving because I didn't want to ruin it.
Because you're looking down your hat.
Yeah, something like that. And then, my brother did all that work and edited it and everything.
That's freaking awesome. Yeah, no, it came out good, brother. Well, dude, I appreciate it. We're out of time. But the last 30 seconds, anyone that I ever interview on the show, I always ask them, if at the end of your life you're able to write a book, what would the title of your book be about your life and why? So what's the title?
Oh, about my life?
Yep, about your life, about Cody Cobb. What would the title of the book be? And why?
I heard Dina's earlier, so I can't say Relentless. That was good. The title of my life.
Yep, book about your life. What would the title be?
Oh boy. One word?
No, it could be a paragraph, it could be a sentence, whatever.
Man, I want people. I'm not even trying to be generic. It's just what I care about, right?
Yeah.
It's important to me. But I want people to see what the Lord does in my life, right? So I always want to do my best to live in a way that's authentic, humble, honest, integrity, all these kinds of things, right? But I think one of the things recently that I've just started to realize more and more the older I get is how important our legacy is, right? And there's a lot wrapped up into that, and there's a lot that affects that. And I think something to do with legacy would just have to be where it is, because that is what I care about, the
legacy.
The legacy left for others.
As you're saying all that, I just keep hearing.
Maybe that would be it, right?
Well, I was going to say, and I just kind of hear, as you're saying all that, it's like, watch what's next.
Yeah, bro.
Like, just watch what's next, bro. Like, almost like hold my beer. Like,
you remember that? You remember that photo I did on IG this year that was me just looking down in the blue light or whatever, and it said like watch closely or something like that, right?
Watch what's next.
Because it's like I'm hungry, man.
Well, dude, and that's it. And when you have that spiritual identity, bro, you know who you are. It just becomes fun.
Yeah.
Because we know it's not us, right? It's him in us. So.
When you know that in the failure and defeat, right? Because we have plenty of that. We have more than that than we do success. And when we have that, and we're able to take a step back and look, and go, but you know what? His plan's greater than mine.
Without a doubt.
Which is crazy. And he promises he will provide. And you look. So thankfully, we've got those strengths and those truths to lean back on.
Well, and that's why I love the podcast, bro, because we can talk about all this stuff, right? There's certain things when you're in a business atmosphere that, like you said, they don't want you talking about whatever. Yeah. Like, I mean, when I was speaking in the public schools, there's times where, like, you can't mention Jesus, you can't mention God, right? So it's like, that's why I love it. We have the freedom to do whatever, man. Yeah, so I appreciate it, brother.
Absolutely.
I know we'll be doing another one.
We can do this for 8 hours, man. That's our problem.
So I just want to thank everyone for tuning in today and listening to the Mindset Podcast. And again, we're March 2022. So January or February of 2023, be looking for Cody's book. Hold my beer. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.